Dinosaurs, do they fit in the Bible? Part 2. We'll have a link to Part 1 in the description. Now, start with the Bible. Genesis 1 said, "So God created the great creatures of the sea, and every living thing with which the water teems, and that moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good." So the sea and the air creatures were created. This is on the fourth day, actually. The fifth day. The sixth day, it says, God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. So at creation, you have the kinds that would be large categories of animals and plants created. And within each, there was potential for much differentiation. But that would include what we call dinosaurs and the so-called prehistoric giant sea creatures, which aren't usually classified as dinosaurs, but they're giant swimming reptiles that we often associate with dinosaurs. So, do dinosaurs fit in the Bible? Are they in the Bible? The book of Job may date back as far as 2000 BC. In part 1, we talked about Behemoth from Job 40. And Job 41, he speaks about another creature. This is God speaking, can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? This is a rhetorical question with an implied answer of no. Just as Behemoth was the greatest land creature God used as an example, he's using Leviathan as the greatest sea creature. And as mighty and powerful and uncontrollable as they are, they pale next to the power of their creator, God. Verse 10, "No one is fierce enough to rouse it. Who then is able to stand against me?" Now, Leviathan, it means twisting, coiling, muscular. It's the word for the mightiest sea creature. Now, some people try to say Leviathan was a crocodile. Men have been known to subdue crocodiles. People wrestled them, uh, taken care of them, dealt with them in attacks, even without weapons. Now, they're, of course, at their strength out in the water, but it has been done. It doesn't fit the description of Leviathan. The most likely candidates are all today classified as prehistoric. But we who believe the Bible is plainly written, nothing is prehistoric. Chronosaurus, Mosasaurus, Pliosaurus, these are likely candidates for the Leviathan. Also something called a super croc, super crocodile, giant crocodile, all of which are not alive today. The word tannin in Hebrew means sometimes translated serpent or dragon or sea monster. In Psalm 91, you see it used here, translated serpent. "You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent." Now, many translations have used the word dragon to translate tannin. But you see clearly in Psalm 41, this is talking about an animal people know, people have experience with. This is, again, not Leviathan, but it's talking about an animal that people are aware of. It's listed with other animals we know today, and it was often translated dragon and not seem to be an anomalous or crazy choice. The King James English translation, published over 500 years ago, used the term dragon over 20 times in the Old Testament. Only once metaphorically in Ezekiel 29. It refers to actual animals people recognize. In fact, they don't even make sense, most of them, if taken as mythical creatures. So the term dragon 500 years ago was used as a real, actual, known creature. There are historic descriptions of dragons. Ancient writers such as Greek historian Herodotus, Apollonius of Tyana, and the great Italian traveler to China, Marco Polo, provided detailed descriptions of creatures which closely resemble the dinosaurs reconstructed in our museums. Back to Leviathan, Job 41. Its breath sets coals ablaze, and flames dart from its mouth. It makes the depths churn like a boiling cauldron, and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. It sounds like a fire-breathing dragon. Fire-breathing dragons were considered real until fairly recently in human history. How can an animal breathe fire? Well, we have one example on a much smaller scale, the bombardier beetle. It shoots fiery combusting liquid as a defense mechanism. The bombardier beetle, it mixes hydrogen peroxide and hydroquinone and shoots them out, and when they hit the air, they are a boiling gas. So you're mixing chemicals that become hot or combustible, explosive when they hit the air. It is hardly unprecedented. It's a powerful defense mechanism for this little creature. A little kid once asked me what my favorite insect was, and this is what I came up with. Now, an ancient text on dragons and ghosts by John of Damascus. The late 20th century, it was translated for the first time, in a modern translation, into Russian, and was published in Moscow. Now, John of Damascus, also known as Saint John the Damascene, was an Arab monk, a renowned theologian of the Eastern, that is the Greek Christian Church, in the 8th century. And he was a doctor of both the Latin and Greek churches. He was a leading intermediary between the two church cultures. His book, Fount of Knowledge, earned him the title the Father of Scholasticism. He was an eminent preacher and known as the Golden Orator. So this guy was a big deal. Very well respected, very well educated, very well studied, very well read. And he was someone that had an excellent reputation. John of Damascus was an author of great intellect, a stranger to any gullibility or fable telling. In fact, the purpose of this essay is to expose various fables and superstitions. He wasn't looking to spread rumors and build up fanciful tales. He was looking to tear such things down. See, according to this text, again, in the 700s, dragons had become rare. The storytellers began to embellish their descriptions. Don't we do the same things with dinosaurs? They've died out, and we've built great stories around them. Look at the Jurassic Park series. How many details do we fill in and add on that we really don't know? The notion of raptors hunting in packs is complete speculation, but it's something we add on. Maybe not as irresponsibly as what he was dealing with, but the point is he acknowledged the existence of dragons, but he rebuffed contemporary notions such as dragons could take human form and associate with people. They were making a real creature into a mythical creature. Almost like when a great warrior of history would die and they would make him into a legend or even a god that people would tell stories about. They were doing that with dragons. But he acknowledged the existence of actual real dragons. Dragons exist, he said, but they are serpents, that is, reptiles, born of other reptiles. He relays an account from almost a millennia before him, but still existed in the literature. The 3rd century BC, the Roman army killed a dragon, and they sent its hide back to the Senate. It was a pretty big deal, pretty big accomplishment apparently, and it reportedly measured 120 feet, 37 meters, 40 yards in length. The hide of this creature. It's pretty impressive no matter what it was. John described dragons as having a horn on the back of their head, gold-colored eyes, and non-poisonous. These are specific reported scientific observations based on what was known at the time. And he was tearing down what people were tacking on to the known as false. So he was trying to preserve history rather than mythology. Now, brings up the question, are we certain that dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago? Now, according to the evolutionary time scale, that will be long before humans ever lived. Now, the fossil layers are interpreted to be a record of life as it evolved and died out. So there are no dinosaurs in the last 65 million years of the fossil record as interpreted in this fashion. Therefore, they must have died out. So anything we call a creature that looks a whole lot like a dinosaur must be some sort of mythical creature. That's how we come up with these interpretations. That's why we discount and laugh at the word dragon used as a description for a known creature just a few centuries ago. But let's look at this assumption. The coelacanth fish, according to the fossil record, it must have died out 80 million years ago. No record. That was believed true until fishermen were found to be catching them in the Indian Ocean in the 20th century, back as far as the 1950s, I believe. Somebody discovered that they were actually catching coelacanth fish. These were these ancient fossils that hadn't appeared for supposedly 80 million years of buildup in the rocks. The Wollemi pine tree is believed to be extinct for over 140 million years until a grove was found growing in the Blue Mountains of Australia. That's still there today. The coelacanth fish is still being caught today. These are what is called living fossils that, according to the fossil record, have not changed for millions and millions of years. There are lots of them. They weren't all thought to be extinct for so long till they were found, but they show up exactly the same way as they did supposedly tens of millions of years ago. No change. Supposedly they reached some sort of evolutionary perfection, or for whatever environment or all environments they've been in over that time. We have more in part 1 regarding this, and please check out some of our other videos, and please, we invite you to subscribe. Here are some additional resources. On the left, you have the dinosaur page from creation.com, a number of very good articles. And also on the right, an article that's actually a caution against too fancifully looking at ancient evidence and determining its proof of dinosaurs being in the presence of humans. It retracts some notions that were put forth even in some of their articles that have been that were not satisfactorily researched or examined before they were put forth. It's a caution against too much enthusiasm without carefully examining what you actually have. So they're trying to be fair there. Thank you for listening and watching, and please subscribe to our channel.